19. Roland Lim tells us more.
Media tycoon Jimmy Lai and 9 other well-known democracy activists will be sentenced Friday at the district court. Lai and former lawmakers Lee Chok-yan, Albert Ho and Leong Kok-hong had earlier pleaded guilty to organizing an illegal assembly on October 1st, 2019, China's National Day, during the height of the civil unrest that year. They had led a protest march from Causeway Bay to Central without the police's approval. They all face a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison under the Public Order Ordinance. Jimmy Lai, the founder of Apple Daily, is already in jail, serving a 14-month sentence for taking part in another illegal assembly on August 2019. And authorities have also laid 3 national security-related charges against him. More recently, Lai had his assets frozen by authorities who alleged that they were related to offences endangering national security. Beijing labels Jimmy Lai a traitor after his frequent visits to Washington to meet officials like former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to rally support for democracy in Hong Kong. Former lawmakers Lee Chok-yan, Leong Kok-hong and Sid Ho, who also pleaded guilty, are already serving prison terms in relation to other cases. The other 6, including ex-lawmaker Albert Ho and Yong Sum, have also had their bail revoked and are currently remanded in custody. The arrests and subsequent convictions of dozens of pro-democracy activists is fallout from the 2019 anti-government protests, which started out as opposition against an extradition bill which the government later withdrew, but led to the worst crisis the city had ever seen since the handover. Roland Lim, CNA, Hong Kong.
Extending the emergency and tightening quarantine measures, Japan is pulling out all the stops 2 months ahead of the Tokyo Olympics as calls grow to cancel it.
A senior government official said the government plans to extend the COVID-19 state of emergency by nearly a month in Tokyo and 8 other prefectures. It's set to expire on the 31st of May. It could be extended until the 20th of June. The games run a month later from the 23rd of July. A formal decision on the extension is due after Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga consults with a panel of experts today.
Well, Japan recorded more than 4,100 new cases and 111 deaths yesterday. The country has been struggling to control the spread of highly infectious new virus variants. Well, starting today, people entering from India and several other countries will have to self-isolate at government-designated facilities for 10 days.
The head of Japan's doctors' union has warned that authorities cannot deny the possibility of a new strain of COVID-19 emerging if the Olympics are held.
コロナと戦いに勝利するためには、このような動きを止める必要があります。そのために私たちは東京オリンピックの中止を求めました。
U.S. health experts recently said plans to hold the Olympics were not informed by the best scientific evidence. They called for urgent action to assess the health risks of proceeding with the Games and additional measures to help mitigate them. But not all are against the event. The European Union has backed Japan holding the Olympics, saying it will be a symbol of global unity.
Nearly 7 million people in Australia's state of Victoria are in a fresh lockdown. And this is the fourth one since the beginning of the pandemic, and it took effect overnight and will last for a week.
Authorities are hoping the move will help them contain a fast-growing COVID-19 cluster in Melbourne. 4 new cases were reported overnight, bringing the cluster to 30 in just 5 days. Across Victoria, residents must now remain home at all times, except for essential work, grocery shopping, healthcare, or exercise, and to get vaccinated. Masks must be worn at all times when out. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says the coming week will be difficult for those affected.
The next 7 days in Victoria will be very challenging. And of course, we are very mindful of the distress and the difficulty that this will impose upon people right across Victoria as a result of what is being described, rightly I think, by the acting Premier as a circuit-breaking lockdown, and a lockdown for 7 days that hopefully won't go as long as that.
Previously, Mr. Morrison said he would ensure that Australia be among the leaders in the world in distributing and administering vaccine shots. But not only has the country been slow in its rollout, it also fighting vaccine hesitancy. Brianna Piazza tells us what authorities are now doing to convince more people to get inoculated.
We've heard many times now from our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, that Australia is the envy of the world because it's managed to, for the most part, stamp out COVID-19. In most of the country, really, life has been going on as normal with little or no restrictions at all. So it's really these lockdowns that are happening tend to be not too often, but still very, very much a concern for businesses, particularly here in Melbourne. So pretty much one of the issues that we're running into with the vaccine rollout is hesitancy. So that relates to very much sections of the population that are eligible to be vaccinated. Many people are holding off on getting their vaccinations because of concerns they may have around the safety of the vaccine. So even just in recent days, we heard that the vaccination hubs in Melbourne were pretty much empty, and people who walked past described these as heartbreaking scenes. But that is starting to pick up in recent days. State authorities in Victoria are starting to talk about opening up vaccinations to younger sections of the population. But also recently we've just heard that businesses are getting on board as well. So Australian airline Qantas is considering offering free flights and frequent flyer points to people who have had both vaccinations. It's understood that they're still trying to iron out a few of the finer details, but if that goes ahead, that would be coming into effect sort of towards the next few months and for the rest of the year. So definitely what we understand is that Australia's borders will remain closed until we can get much of the population vaccinated.
Singapore is barring short-term travelers who have been to Victoria in the last 21 days from entering the country. The rule takes effect on Sunday. At the same time, Singapore citizens, permanent residents, and long-term pass holders who have recently traveled to Victoria State must serve a 7-day stay-home notice at their place of residence. Swab tests will be done at the start and end of the isolation period. Currently, they only need to test negative upon arrival. Travelers from other parts of Australia are not affected by this latest rule, as Singapore continues to adjust border measures to manage the COVID-19 situation.
Fresh data raises questions over Japan's economic recovery, but that's failing to drag down its stock market this morning. Plus, reports say SoftBank is putting its money on the buy now, pay later trend amid the shifting dynamics of online credit.
Bearing the brunt of worsening global warming.
As we see the whole landscape changing, it is really impacting our way of life.
Can we reduce our carbon footprint to fight climate change?
We're doing our bit to not rely so much on the coal-fired power stations to power what we do in our house.
Are the steps we're taking really enough? CNA correspondent fighting climate change. Tonight on CNA.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. Plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need, only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation.
This Saturday, could rising inflation derail the post-pandemic economic recovery?
Those parts of the market that are more overvalued could easily get hit.
Relooking China's growth model as its population ages.
Chinese babies are not growing into industrial workers in the future.
Plus, how to be a part of the blockchain boom. Saturday on CNA.
In 1977, we took air travel to a whole new level when it comes to exclusivity.
For Singaporeans, go back in time to search for more answers from Singapore's past